that he wasn't the one at the top of the pyramid, but he was the one who, obviously as the money launderer, as the bagman, he was the one who basically knew how the entire operation ran, because he was the one holding up money, that they basically brought him in and turned him into an informant, and he basically ratted out everybody in the crime ring, because that's how feds do their investigation in the US. And so, by the way, it's also clearly stated in the US Justice Department guidelines for asset seizures and settlements, that settlements are actively encouraged to conserve resources served. So in this instance, if justice will be served by getting this guy to turn and become an informant on the other members of the drug ring who were probably even higher up, then compared to the trade-off, it was probably a good deal for the FBI and for him. But to extrapolate from that somehow he wasn't guilty, somehow he didn't do anything, this was all some kind of mistake, that's completely ridiculous and mischievous, because if you read the documents, they are very clear about it. There is no ambiguity whatsoever, which is why I will keep on coming back to it, that nobody has to take my word for it, right? It doesn't have to be David Hundeyin said, right? Because this is not a David Hundeyin said situation. These documents are in public domain. Please look for the damages. But for the sake of your future, for the sake of making a good decision that could potentially, influence how at least in the next decade of your life, orders of magnitude more important than a job. So I think people should just make a sacrifice and read these documents for themselves, so that people like the Keyamos of this world can stop playing with their heads, basically.
Now, Nigeria has a large population of illiterate people, or an uneducated population. For those who may not be able to read this document, you did a documentary. Can you walk us through the story in the next few minutes? Just walk us through what you found out.
So really, if you read the story that I published in July, then you would already know pretty much everything that's in the documentary, because the documentary was basically just the visual format of the story. Because I realized that
David? Uh-oh, seems like we lost connection there. David, we can hardly hear you now. All right, the conversation continues. We'll walk through this, and we'll be rejoined by David Hundeyin shortly. Keep it with us on your radio experience you can count on. All right, David, we have you back. Yes, go ahead. We lost connection for a bit.
Yeah, so I was saying, normally I would have left it at that, but this time around I thought this particular story is too important for the sake of what comes next year, for the sake of people making an informed decision in 2023, for the sake of not hearing, oh, we didn't know, or we couldn't have known the kind of person we're voting for. I thought this was far too important a story to sort of just leave to die on the internet. Prime way of doing it is by visual documentaries. If you're familiar with my platform, West Africa Weekly, that wasn't even the first time that I was doing that. This is actually my second documentary. The first one I did was based on an article I published in October 2021 called Conflicts for Jihad, the Boko Haram origin story. So I did a visual version of it in September. That was released in September, and then this is the second one. There are going to be others based on other stories that I've done. I guess timing and makes it all kind of fortuitous, because initially I was thinking maybe I'll wait till January to do it, but I just thought, you know what, I actually ran a poll on my Twitter page where I asked people, so of all the stories I've done, which of these four do you think I should turn into a documentary next? That was after I had released the first documentary, and more than something to say, hey, cool, let me do this one now. So my team and I basically sat down, we worked on a script together. I did the voicing, did sound production, and then my guys did some of the visual editing. I did some video editing as well. It was a lot of back and forth. It took a lot of a lot of it is basically just like volunteering, basically, because I mean, I'm not even paying these people up front. We have an arrangement that whatever like Google AdSense revenues come in, we have a sharing agreement for it, that sort of thing. So a lot of this is just a group of guys just coming together to do something because they believe in it and because they think that it's some kind of national service. Like, so on its own, it's not even, probably not even a sustainable thing in its current form. But it was literally just us deciding that this story needs to be told. This needs to go out to a much wider audience. In fact, one of the things that we're actually doing is, in addition to this documentary, which obviously was voiced in English, where we also created a version of it without a voice over at all, so that those who would want to voice it in other languages would be able to record their own, like do their translation, dub a voiceover over it and put it out. In fact, when I uploaded it on the West Africa channel, it was uploaded under a Creative Commons license, which means that anyone who downloads it and re-uploads it anywhere else on the internet, including YouTube, doesn't get a copyright notice or strike. They're free to use it as they wish because it's basically for educational purposes. So that was the motivation behind it. That was why we did it. Now, the storyline itself, I'm pretty sure everyone listening to this would know because everyone would have watched it already. It's not that long, it's just 30 minutes. It basically just walks the viewer through a timeline from the mid 1970s to present, and gives a sort of overview about the kind of person that wants to be their president, starting from his extremely murky background, where for the first few days, and the PDP frontrunner, Funchal Williams, who was the more popular candidate by far. Fashola was a complete nobody in political terms. He was completely unknown. He wasn't even a politician. He was a civil servant. And then mysteriously, 10 months to the election, the U.S. security service proscribed as a foreign terrorist organization, which had made it difficult for them to refuse to proscribe them. And during that time, the group kept on gaining critical mass, effectively making the Goodluck Jonathan government more unpopular because they were able to carry out a bombing campaign, seize land from Nigeria's, take land away from Nigeria's territorial sovereignty. So the basically made Goodluck Jonathan lose the election. And then, obviously he lost the election and Tinubu's candidates won. And then more recently, in 2020, after somehow during EndSARS, which was a protest movement about occurrence that was burned to the ground and all the case files were destroyed. And then the case wasn't refiled. And eventually he and Dakwakbara, currently as we're speaking, are settling out of court. So the point was just to say, hey, this is what's right there. It's in your face. If you didn't want to read the story because 1,000 words is too long for you, well, here it is in visual form. You actually interact, actually engaging with content, and actually getting the message. So as many people as possible actually make it through the entire video and assimilate that information. And based on the number that I've seen, I think we've achieved that goal.
Well, some people, some supporters of the APC, have said, look, this is out of personal vendetta. That after the EndSARS protest, you had to go on exile, and for that reason, you're not happy that the APC government, was at the helm of affairs. So when all of this happened, what led to your, to your exit from the country, and that's why you're putting up all of these. Allegations against the presidential candidates. How do you respond to that? David, are you there?
Yeah, I said first of all, they aren't allegations; they're facts.
Okay.
So if people aren't happy with the facts, they should go argue with the facts. They shouldn't argue with me. And then secondly, as to whether there's some sort of personal, I have to basically live as as a refugee, as I live under asylum protection. I have another passport. Like my Nigerian life, as I knew it, has been taken away from me against my will. Right? I wasn't even planning to leave Nigeria at the time. It just kind of happened, and next thing I knew, like life was completely different overnight. So if that has happened to me, and then I happen to have a problem with it, I don't see why the fact that I have a problem with it somehow is an issue. Of course, I should have a problem with it. Of course, I should take it personal. In fact, I would argue that if the actions of politicians which directly harm you are things that you do not take personal, then I have to question your basic intelligence. Because then, what do you take personal? Like if you maybe your girlfriend cheats on you and you take it personal, then why on earth would you not take it personal? When the actions of a politician lead to soldiers shooting you dead in the street, which one is more important? So I don't see how would love should be personal.
Oh, it's quite unfortunate. Would have to reconnect with my guest, David Hodei. But you can join the conversation now. Let's hear you. Would be putting your questions forward. If you have questions or concerns to raise, feel free to joining now. This is all about Nigeria. This is all about our country. It's about the 2023 elections. As we go into it, what are your thoughts? We are sensitizing you, enlightening you, and letting you in on all that you need to know about the who to vote and who you're voting or who it is that you intend to support in 2023. I'll bring in this caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning once again.
Good morning, Mayo. Welcome.
I want to say they are teach again. They started with Muslim. They went to went to PDPA. They came and they are talking about another thing. See, I just want to appeal to this kind of individual. You should not get them onto your platform because you cannot do anything.
Why you wouldn't tell us who we would invite on the platform? You do your job. We're doing our job. We're doing our job.
I know you are doing your job.
You.
But this man that is talking to you is a criminal.
How do you
He's
call?
A criminal.
How
He's
so?
a criminal. I'm telling you.
How so?
Why is he not in Nigeria? He's a criminal.
Do you file a case?
20 against Buhari and Jonathan. They did all sorts of nonsense, trying to create, at the end of the day, they failed. They went and created the answer. They failed. They burned their fingers. Now they are coming again with this. I'm very sorry for him.
Mayowa, please take that back. You can't call somebody a criminal on the program. It doesn't make sense. You can't when there's no allegation, there's no case against him anywhere.
This one is just making any sense.
Thank you. That's your thoughts. Thank you very much for calling. More thoughts 09073530044 and 09087668888. Yes, some of these things will be put to David because looking at it, these are concerns by Nigerians. Hello, good morning.
You see, I remember Mr. Sonny the Prince.
Mr. Sonny the Prince, good to have you. Let's hear you.
Yes, everybody is entitled to his opinion. You cannot just come on air and start calling somebody a criminal. The fact he has, you don't have it. He's a journalist. All the information he has, you don't have it. So allow him to express the way it is. It's left for Nigerians to take it or leave it. Mayawa himself has come again. This is how he painted Buhari in 2016 to be a Jesus Christ. Now he's coming again to paint another person's name. Maybe now he's going to call this man.
We're going back on just I
don't know.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
So that is it. So, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Sunday the Prince,
so
can
now
hear
he's
you.
coming again. Yes, okay. Like as I'm saying, everybody is entitled to his or her own opinion. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And this guy in question is a journalist. And the information he has, you and I may not have it. And after teaching his information, it's not left for Nigerians if they will buy by it or not. Not for a man to come on and start calling somebody just a criminal. This is a man who, 2015, painted Buhari Jesus Christ. It's like Jesus Christ. Now it's coming again. Only God knows the name is going to call Tinubu now. I don't know if we won't learn our lessons. We'll continue as a young man who still have about 30, 40 years to live. to be jostling for a man who just have a limited time to go. How can a man who's almost 85 determine your future? It's unfortunate that we find ourselves in this country where we play a lot of politics there, bitterness, ethnicity, tribalism, religion, sentiment. How will Nigeria move forward? But it's unfortunate that it's like that. God will see us through. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Sunday the Prince. We're going to be taking more of your thoughts and responses. Keep it with us here. David, let's talk about some of the other issues coming out from this. You went a step further to also, request that just a few days ago, a lawyer, Mr. Mike Enahoro Eba, sued the presidential candidate of the APC on account of forgery, allegations of certificate forgery and falsification and lying under oath. You're one of those. You're part of your investigation also unearthed the certificate scandal. Tell us about that and what you found. David, are you there?
Can you
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello?
We can hear you, David.
Right. So I was saying, I would love to take credit. I would love to take credit for it, but actually, it's the lawyer who's spearheading this. I just happen to be the media person who got access to the files that he dug up through his investigation. So this technically wasn't my investigation; it's the lawyer's investigation. So that's my ignorance. What he found. So first, when Tinubu officially declared for the president in June, statutorily, INEC can make it Form EC9 available to the public. That's the form with the official affidavits where he gives details of his personal life, his educational history, his work history, that sort of thing, date of birth. But INEC refused to release this information to the public. So Mike Enahoro took INEC to court in August. And he won. It's published what was information on it which looked a bit suspicious. So what the lawyer did was that he engaged a law firm in Chicago. Law firm is called, give me a second, let me confirm the name. Law firm is called Lee Eisenberg and Franklin Limited. It's a law firm in Chicago. So he engaged this law firm. He retained his law firm to go and invade some of these years of this ABC presidential candidate. So the schools I claim to have attended at Richard J. Daley College in Chicago, followed by Chicago State University. The places he claims to have worked at, Lloyd, Mobile Oil, and things like that. So this Heisenberg and Franco Limited then sent out subpoenas. For those who aren't aware, a subpoena is basically a court document. It's a legal document which obligates you to release all information regarding to a certain subject. Richard J. Daley College was subpoenaed. Chicago State University was also subpoenaed. Deloitte was subpoenaed, and the results were very interesting. For those who haven't read the story, I would encourage you. You can I don't know, look for my Twitter handle. It's one of the first tweets you'll see there. The story was published last night. So first of all, the subpoena from Deloitte, the subpoena to Deloitte, the reply that came back basically said, we do not know this man. We have no records of Bola Ahmed Tinubu who has ever worked for us. So basically Tinubu lied about having worked at Deloitte. The second subpoena, which was to Chicago State University, was even more alarming, the results that came back. Because first of all, on his Form EC9, he claimed to have been born in 1954. On the admission records, which were obtained via subpoena from Chicago State University, the date of birth there is 1952. It's an inexplicable 2-year difference. So both things obviously cannot be true at the same time. He must be lying in one of those places. Either he lied on his admission application to Chicago State University, or he lied on his INEC form EC9. But two of those things can be true at the same time. So that's one. The second thing was the gender of the person called, because the record for that supposedly belongs to him at Chicago State University was for somebody called Bola A. Tinubu. Now, the record for this person, which came from the transcript from Richard J. Daley College, which was used to gain admission to Chicago State University, stated that Bola A. Tinubu was a female. The person's sex is stated very clearly, F. But yes, as we all know, the person we know as Bola Tinubu today is a man. So, I mean, I think we can safely rule out the possibility that he did a gender transition, that he used to be a woman before. We can safely rule out that possibility. So, that would mean that the person who gained admission to Chicago State University, known as Bola A. Tinubu, and the person who is the APC presidential candidate, who claims to be that person, are not in fact. So that needs to be cleared up, because potentially what you're looking at is a case of identity theft today, which could possibly be the biggest scandal in Nigeria's history, that Nigeria could potentially end up with a president who has spent his whole life impersonating someone else. And then finally, in my opinion, most concerningly, the certificate. Okay, before I get to that, the records at Chicago State University also indicate that he claimed to be Black American. He claimed to be a U.S. citizen. Now, on INEC form EC9, it's you have to indicate clearly, have you obtained any other citizenship apart from a Nigerian one? And on that form, he answered no. So again, two of those answers cannot be true at the same time. Either he was a U.S. citizen and he lied on his form EC9, or a university, but two of them can be true at the same time. And if he lied on his form EC9, in addition to committing perjury, there's also another issue there, because under the 99 Constitution, there are certain offices, including presidents, governors, members of the House of Reps and Senate, who are not actually allowed to be dual citizens. I know this went to court a while back, so there's a bit of ambiguity over it, but it's stated in the Constitution that dual citizens aren't allowed to hold those posts. So that's another thing. Now, and the final thing, in my opinion, the most concerning thing of all, which came back in response to the subpoena sent from Leahy, Eisenberg, and Franco, was the certificate. Now, the university certificate that he submitted to INEC had one date on it. The university certificate, which Chicago State University sent in response to the subpoena, had a different date. Now, bear in mind that the certificate that Chicago State University sent is a direct and exact reproduction of the original certificate that was issued to somebody called Bola A. Tinubu. Right? So how that certificate appears, what they sent is exactly what that certificate should have looked like in 1979 when it was issued. But if you look at this certificate that Tinubu submitted, you can see that it's very clearly not the same thing. First of all, the university logo is completely different. Secondly, the fonts used on the certificates are completely different fonts. Again, bear in mind that this certificate that was subpoenaed from CSU is an exact reprint. So any certificate purporting to be that certificate has to basically look exactly like it. The fonts are different. The certificate Tinubu submitted to INEC has 2 grammatical errors on it, which is always a telltale giveaway sign of forgery, because basically forgers tend not to be very good at what they do. There are 2 significant grammatical errors on the certificate. There are 2 sentences that make no sense, because one of them was a run-on sentence that didn't use a full stop where it should have been used, and the other sentence used the word off 3 times instead of twice. This is all in the story, by the way, if you read it. So there's different dates, there's different fonts. The signatures on the certificates are also different. The placement of the signatures are different. The font size is different. So basically, you have these 2 certificates basically just are clearly 2 different documents. And since we know for a fact that the certificates which Chicago State University sent through under subpoena is a reprint of the original, that can only mean that the certificate that Tinubu submitted to INEC is a fake. Now, that's not the worst part, believe it or not. Shortly after this story was published, and I was interacting with an audience on Twitter, somebody then sent me a link. And I checked out this link, right? It's on a website called Pinterest. And it turns out that there's a service called, what's it called now? It's called diplomamakers.com. And basically, it's an online service where you can have a fake certificate done. And guess what? On this the certificate template for Chicago State University. And guess what? That template is an exact replica. It looks exactly like the certificate that Tinubu sent to INEC. So it's down to the logo. Everything is if you haven't read the story, I would really recommend that you read the story.
We'll get on with that in a bit. Joining, but let's quickly remind you, no name calling. You cannot call anyone names on this show, on this program. We would engage civil. We have a civil conversation. If you do not agree,
using a story visually.
Yes, David, just hold on. If you do not agree with the journalist and his findings, you can also investigate. Everyone has a right to investigate. Every presidential candidate or every political office holder and those who are running for office. It is your responsibility. It is our responsibilities as journalists to probe everything and investigate all, and also, provide a platform for all voices to be heard. Okay, so if you're investigating any presidential candidates, feel free. Let us know. We would also give you the platform to air what it is that you find, especially if we find that there's value in what your investigations have unearthed. Let's argue with the facts. Let's state the facts when we have these conversations. Joining, let's hear you, 09073530044 and 09087668888. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Yana. This is Zion Prince.
Zion Prince, welcome. Let's hear you.
Thank you. I came into the conversation at the middle where I may have to appreciate your guest as a bold Nigerian who wants to tackle issues that affect us one way or the other with keenness. So I'm not a supporter of Tinubu. I'm a political watcher of national scenario now. So I make my comments based on individuality and independent assessment. So the guest, from what he says, seems to have known much about Tinubu's stigma since 1992. I want to ask, why did it take him so long, to keep these things until 2022 when we were planning for election? And he seemed to have concluded that FBI has been corrupted. Is there no process through which FBI can also be brought to account in U.S. under U.S. laws where he has been on and off? Then he talked as somebody who has no pecuniary interest in these matters. If actually he has no pecuniary interest, he also contradicted by saying that it could be personal because politics is personal. I took note of that statement. Then if he's politicking, who is he working for? Because the candidates and the parties that are now going for election for the presidency in 2023. So which party does he belong? That is why people who have information that such a person is working for the same candidate that has been so dexterous about ruling this country, who also has been fingered to have sponsored so many accusations against this same pointed candidate. Then if it is true that one way or the other, he has personal interest in this matter, and that personal interest is pecuniary. I will, in my own independent opinion, also opine that he should also go down for corruption. So I thank him for coming up with all these things. Let us see how it all plays out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clement Zion Prince. I'm sure you missed out some parts of what the caller said, Clement. He's saying, first off, that he appreciates your work, David, and he's also concerned about the fact that you seem to have indicted the FBI in your comment, where you said you haven't received what do you call it now, a response from the Freedom of Information request you made, and that you seem to have indicted the FBI of corruption. And then if you have a personal vendetta against, or personal issue against the candidates, he also suspects that you may have been working with some of the opposition and all. How do you respond? I know you responded to that earlier, but for his sake, please clear that up.
So I didn't accuse the FBI of corruption. I said they've not responded to my FOI request. There are several reasons why the FBI might choose not to respond to an FOI request. Now, if he's not aware, he can always use Google and educate himself about how things work. The FBI is not obligated to respond to every FOI request, right? Especially as I'm not even a US citizen. So they can decide to accede to certain FOI requests. They can also choose. So nobody's accusing the FBI of corruption here. And then, the other part about me having personal vendetta or working with opposition or whatnot, I'm simply not going to respond to it. Just as simple as that. Whatever anybody wants to believe, they should feel free.
Okay, so first of all, he also mentioned that you seem to have known so much about Tinubu from 1992, but then you held it up till now. Why now, 2020? I asked you that question earlier. You probably missed that, but just again for his sake, because I want us to have a clear conversation with the listeners. Why wait till 2022, an electioneering year?
Why not wait till 2020? To an electioneering year? When is the best time for that story to be told? Is it not when this person is trying to potentially become the most powerful man in Nigeria? How does it make sense to tell that story now of all times? It generally baffles me when I hear that. I honestly question the basic intelligence of anyone asking it, because which other time are you going to want to talk more for two and not the person in the compartment? When else are you? And by the way, seeing as I turned 32 this year, so if I've known the story since 1992, that means that I knew of it since I was 3 years old, which would be amazing.
Interesting. Let's bring in one caller and then we close. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Abdullahi Mekano.
Yeah, this is Abdullahi Mekano on the line.
Go ahead.
Sir, I thank very much indeed, especially for the wonderful presentation that your special guest today. This Tinubu, that's APC presidential candidate now, has a forgery certificate scandal. So if this is the case, all that I have to say is the man should be going under investigation because of his multiple allegations. We have drugs allegations now, certificate scandal also is an allegation, and there are many more. So these people are the types of people we have in the country, the powerful men who want to rule this country by all means. I look at the various issues they have in and outside the country, which is unbecoming and very, very disheartening to Nigeria to have such types of leaders. Even though it is an allegation, I'm not saying it is quite true. But for somebody who wants to be a leader, to lead a great country in Africa like Nigeria, you need to be honest, a little bit honest, and at least you need to have a kind of reputation worldwide. But unfortunately, the leader we have in this country is also telling Nigerians that he is going to campaign for this man, and he will make sure that man succeed to become his next successor to become the president of Nigeria. So I know all these allegations against him is not going to be investigated anymore because he is a powerful man now, and also the government on power is behind him. They will start all the process of investigation, both locally and internationally, to make sure that this man succeeded to become the next president. But we are all watching as Nigerians. We are not powerful, but we are loyalist Nigerians, and we are calling God to come out and intervene into this matter. May God choose the best leader for Nigeria, wherever he comes from. And may God choose the best people at all positions in this country. May God save Nigeria and Nigerian future. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Abdullahi Mekano. We'll wrap it up now, but not before we go. David, if you say politics, one of the questions that has arise from this is, well, at the moment, if you're not in the country and you're not interested in, or you may not be able to vote because you're in the diaspora, why go through all the stress? I'd love you to answer that as we go in 1 minute.
I wasn't aware that being in the diaspora makes you stop being a Nigerian, or makes you stop being a Nigerian citizen, or makes Nigeria stop affecting you wherever you are. Because whether you're in the diaspora or not, the person who is going to become president of Nigeria has a direct impact on your life. In fact, as a diasporan, the impact can even be amplified, because if, for example, the Nigerian passport is viewed with the suspicion and hostility that it is when traveling, if the Nigerian is taken over by somebody who is credibly linked to international drug trafficking, and the foreign view of Nigeria starts being that of a narco state, in a way that even Colombia during the era of Pablo Escobar wasn't, then what kind of impact is it going to have on people in the diaspora? So yes, it's very much my problem. It's everybody in the diaspora's problem too. The person who becomes president in Nigeria is every Nigerian's problem.
All right, we'll say thank you so much, David Hunday, investigative journalist. Thank you so much for talking with us this morning. We appreciate your time and thoughts on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Have an amazing day ahead. And, have a message here from Henry from Mushafa. Henry says, good morning, Hanacho. Well done work and all you do. Please kindly bar Mayowa on your... No, we wouldn't bar him. Everyone has... sometimes people lose their cool. It's quite unfortunate that Mayowa lost his cool this morning on the program, and we really discourage that. We hope that everybody handles conversations in the most mature way and not lose their cool because it affects their sensibilities or sensitivity, or whoever it is that they support. All right, let's also inform you that the Tinubu camp, even Tinubu himself as a person, has a right to reply, and this platform will be available for any of those responses to some of the issues discussed here. What we do here is to inform the Nigerian public if there's any controversy around those who are seeking office in the country. We'll bring them to you, and you be the judge. All right, and this is where we close it. Thank you to everyone who's been a part of the conversation. Thank you again. Let's continue to do what we can to keep this country together and even make it better. My name is Ihanacho Prince, Business News.